Hi everyone, hope you're all doing well, and today we're going to talk about EHang. Obviously there was a big drop yesterday. I've kind of recorded this video once and re-recording it because there's been even more developments that prove a lot of the short report that has come out is incorrect. Currently I've got to about 80% where I've got the evidence, so it kind of gets to the point of view. There's some things I can't totally answer because you kind of need to be in the company to answer a few of these questions, and also for some of the things you could do with being quite good at reading Chinese, which I cannot do either. But with what information I have found to prove that some of these claims are actually wrong from this short report, I'll show you everything today. So we'll watch the video together that came out with the short report, and I'll try to just put some information back on that. Currently EHang shares are currently flat pretty much on pre-market. The main kind of claim that is a little bit tricky to answer is there's a claim about orders, which I'll get onto a little bit, but everything else I'll kind of break down for you. It is worth noting that EHang is a proven company with many income streams, which is not mentioned in the report, and also that a lot of the unmanned drone service as well is waiting approval. So you know, there's a lot of things that we kind of, EHang's a future company, not a company that's coming at its prime right now, but also has many great partnerships. You know, they have a lot of sales which are across a lot of continents at the moment, and also it has a lot of great partnerships at the moment. You know, we only have to look at like DHL. It took a 40 million investment the other day as well. It's working with a lot of other partnerships that goes on here, and we'll get covered onto that in the video in a little bit. But yeah, it's definitely a cheap shot, and to be fair, the short report has come at a great time, to be fair, because the stock was doing really good. So I think the stock was overvalued, and that's why there's been such a snap of 60%. Like, I think it's just because the stock's been on a really good run, and I'd probably say that it was pretty much a little bit overvalued. Personally, I do own a little small spec position in EHang, but as of yesterday I did increase it. I doubled my position, and then I increased it another 50% when the last 10 minutes of the stock market was open. But yeah, it was always a bit of a spec play for me, but that spec play has slightly got a little bit bigger after this report, because I kind of wanted to like buy it. I bought like $70, and I was like, okay, I'll buy a bit, and then if it just carries on going up, I do have a little position here. But ideally, if it can go down, maybe not in this situation, but if it could go down and I could buy more, I'll do that. And we have got this little dip that's going on right now, but it's still relatively a small position, and potentially that I could potentially buy a few more shares. We'll see what exactly happens. It's worth saying at the moment EHang have come out with a statement saying that a lot of the information is incorrect and false, which is, you know, the general way to go. They've said that they'll be coming out with a full detailed response in very soon, so we'll wait until that comes out. That might shed a few light on a few things as well. So yeah, from that point of view, that's where EHang are at. Now, the short report actually came out by Wolfpack. These guys, just to do a little research on them and how reliable these guys can be. Their history at the moment is, I think, their last 7 short articles, 6 of the stocks have gone up from them short articles, and as well as that, a lot of this, I think 2 or 3 of the stocks have gone up over triple digits, and the other stocks have gone up double digits. So they've only got like a 1 out of 6 or 7 correct previously, which is definitely not a great thing. Try to find a lot of information about this, the Wolfpack itself. Can't find that much information apart from the actual claims they've had previously. A lot of them have been incorrect, and the stocks have done really well. Historically, this company doesn't like Chinese companies as well. You know, fun enough, EHang's a Chinese company, and trying to find more information about it, I can't find that much. Someone said to me that they've apparently only got 10 people working for the company, so once I get done, I'm not going to put false information here, but kind of gives you the size of what the company is. So what we'll do is we'll go through this video. I'll try and kind of break down the information. I can, like I say, 80% I've kind of can prove that a lot of this is kind of incorrect at the moment. But yeah, we'll watch this together, and I'll just pause at times to just speak about what's going on in this company.
I'm Max Sweethy, and I'm joined today by Dan David, the founder of Wolfpack Research. Welcome to the chopping block, Dan.
Thanks, Max. Appreciate being here.
Well, Dan, let's get right into it. Who is up on the block today?
Today, we have a wonderful little morsel for you. A stock called ticker symbol EH, EHang Technologies. They are purportedly a leader in innovative eVTOL, electronic vehicle takeoff and landing technology. They have a fully autonomous, so they say, vehicle that they are bringing to market. They'll be the first one to do this with...
So from this point of view, straight away, like you can see, I mean, you could take this as opinion, but they also have many other income streams as well as that. And as well as that, they say it's proven, like, you know, there's not many companies out there that even have a prototype out right now, whereas there's actually video footage of this flying around. So yeah, from that point of view, there's already an incorrect statement there.
Cutting edge intellectual property and technology that is stored in China. They are the first that I know of listed company on the exchange, with many, many more large competitors to join them soon.
Let's talk a little bit about the space, because I think it's important to understand, what type of company we're dealing with here. You're not saying that the space is one that needs to be shorted. It's specifically this company within the space. You actually have a pretty bullish view on the eVTOL companies.
Yeah, the eVTOL space is going to be huge. You have very large players in there. Boeing, United just signed with Archer.
So Boeing don't even have a prototype out yet. I agree the space is going to be absolutely huge, and it's more like in a few years' time in the development. But just to say here, like the competitors in here, EHang have a proven prototype with I think 10,000 test flights with 0 crashes. Boeing haven't even got a prototype out yet. Archer, I think, are not even going to make any revenue for another 5 years yet.
To have 200 delivered in the next few years. General Motors is in there with Cadillac. You've got Joby, who just merged with Uber Elevate. They're a very big number of large players that are coming to market within the next few months, actually. And we're very bullish on some of them, in spite of the fact that, some of them are going to be SPACs. I guess not all SPACs are bad, but this space is going to be huge. The problem is, when you look at EHang, who rushed to market, and I understand why they did now, because they're basically a stock promote with largely
By rush to market, I think mean like rush to being on the stock market, which is once again not totally correct. I think the company's been around about 7 years right now. So if it was to rush to stock market, I think it would be a little bit earlier than this. So yeah.
Sales. They have one customer that we could find who's also a distributor, also a competitor, by the name of Shanghai Kongshin.
Now, by the term of one customer, I'm not sure if it means just like this is one customer or they only have one customer, because if they are suggesting that they only have one customer, that's incorrect. They have many customers. In fact, if we go on to the press releases of EHang, there is a lot of information on here. We've got partnership with Vodafone here. Once again, we've got a demo of them flying command and control center. We also have here EHang delivers second batch of passenger drones. These drones, we have a video of them actually flying. They also say that they are customers. They also go to multiple regions as well, not just staying in China. So that's something really important to put in there. And just as in general, there's a lot of press releases on the actual website, which you can go through, which kind of supports EHang from what I was saying earlier.
So we've looked at this customer inside and out, recorded phone calls, on-site visits, interviews with their finance manager, and we basically come to the conclusion that these contracts that EHang has purportedly signed with Kongshin are shams, in that this benefits both parties. Kongshin has an investment pre-IPO into EH, $16 million investment, undisclosed. That investment today, just by the stock price valuation, is worth $50 million.
So with this investment, I've tried to find how they managed to find out this information, where they got the information from. Like I say, it was undisclosed. Apparently this investment now is worth $50 million. But now that EHang have become a public company, I'm not sure if it's just me being an absolute idiot, but when you're a public company, you can see who the biggest shareholders are in the company. And if we were to go actually on to EHang's inside shareholders, 50 million dollars would put us around about the 500 million if we were to convert the currencies. So if they were an investment, I'm pretty sure they should be the second biggest shareholder on here. So yeah, I'm not sure like if this is true and they have an investment. Now the public, I'm sure we should see this information, but they're clearly not in the insider holdings. And I mean, I don't know if they've just, apparently this was from pre-IPO, and I just go down the list and I can't see their name anywhere in this in the top shareholders. So I don't know if they've sold a stake or something. But yeah, if they were still holding and it's worth 50 million now, which is the suggestion, then I'm sure they should be on the top 21 shareholder list, which they're not. So I, once again, can't find any credibility in that statement.
When we go to talk to Kunshan's finance manager, who's the only employee we could find, I mean, first of all, backing up into this, trying to find Kunshan was not easy. They had 3 listed addresses. One of them was a hotel, which was not Kunshan. One of them was a building, and they reported that they were on the 13th floor of an 11-story building. By the time we actually did find them, we found one.
So I'm not sure, like I say, you kind of need to be able to read a foreign language to go through a lot of this information, so I can't go too much concrete information. But it seems like they've actually gone on an actual report now, and they've actually got the address on that report, so it sounds like there's a lot of false information. And also what they showed you previously, them 2 previous addresses, for some reason now they found that actual location. They never showed us, like previous, it was like, oh, they're in a hotel and here's the hotel. Like they actually found the location, but there was no photograph of this actual location. So I'm like, okay, is this an actual legit location with a logo on it? I mean, it just seems very like finding wrong addresses and then claiming they're there, then they're not there, then finding the actual address and there's no photo evidence of this address.
One employee there, their finance manager, who did nothing but complain about what a terrible product EH has in their.
So once again, I don't know why, if they are talking to this finance manager, which there's no proof that they did do, like photos or anything like that, or records. If this company is into something quite dodgy with EHang, why are they then slating the products that they're apparently owning? Like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, if you're doing something risky and you're forging orders and you have investments that you're trying to benefit from, why is the CFO, he must know that. Why would he then go slate off that investment? Because he'd be like, oh no, they're absolutely amazing, So I'm not sure how they link up.
EH216. He said, what we found, and we already knew, that it basically can fly for 10 minutes. It's got 30 minutes of battery life by the time you're landing and you're taking off. They had a competing product they said they'd sell us for the same price, and it flies for 4 hours. And we don't want the.
I mean, that's like a I give up moment. Like 4 hours. Like that's just such a random number thrown out. If there was a drone company that had the ability to fly for 4 hours, we would know about that. They would be like, hey, look, we've got a drone that flies for 4 hours, and they would be attracting so much investor. That was just a number thrown out and just a complete lie. Also on the battery time, there's video evidence as well that the current EHang drones can fly longer than that.
EH216. And this is their sole distributor, right? And their biggest customer that supposedly bought 128 or has a contract for 128 units of the EH216.
It's not the biggest customer, but we'll carry on.
Speaking of those contracts, the first contract they signed with EH was what really got our attention. So in February 2019, prior to their IPO, Kunshan supposedly signed a contract for 3 units for a total of 450 million RMB. Now these things sell for about 1.5 million RMB. So they're.
So this is the only little thing, like you'd have to be really in EHang to know exactly the order details on this. We don't know exactly the in and outs on this one. And it also is clear to make this as an order, not inflated revenues or sales.
Paying 100 times more for these 3 units. And then 3 months later, sign up for another 20 units, this time for 30 million RMB. more in line with the pricing. We found this in a draft registration statement prior to their IPO. It's pretty hidden in the Edgar files, but you can still find it. A month after this draft registration statement came out, they filed with the SEC to have the prices redacted. Obviously, because people looking at this and seeing nobody's going to pay $450 million, 450 million RMB for 3 units. Now you can't see what their prices are with their one customer, but we can see that this is, obviously a sham contract.
Now, I think it's really important to say that these contracts, you would have to be really in EHang to kind of break down. Like, we don't know exactly the ins and outs of this one. This is the only one that I don't have loads of answers on. But the thing that I would say that this is a contract, and I don't know what happened with the first contract, but it clearly wasn't. It was never put on the income statements. This never led to it saying like, oh yeah, they went through this order. Because if we ever went down to look at the actual revenue here, you'll see that obviously they reported that as the total order being like something like 60 million, I think it was, or 450 million if we were to use their currency. Obviously, the reported sales were never 450 million. So it never seems to me like there was sales that were lied about. There were never reported revenue that was reported about, because you can look here, like the revenue is way below what apparently this contract was. We don't know what was going on in this contract. We don't know the actual in and out of it. I can't find full access to the contract. Obviously, EHang will have to shed a little bit more light on this, what the situation was here. But the main thing is to say that this never led to, I don't know what the in and out of the contract, but it never led to false numbers being reported by the company on the revenue side of it. So I think that's the main thing. When we look at the company, is that part of false revenue and profit that was stated? No. So that is something to say there. There's no false numbers. It's just a question of, is this a false order? I mean, we don't know if that order was then cancelled, and that's why there was the new order put in. There's also the point of view that there has to be the background checks done on this company. So like I say, I haven't got too much concrete information. You would have to probably be in EHang to know that in and out of this order. It was also when they were a private company as well. But I can definitely say that this was never led to any false revenue put into the company.
In our opinion, prior to Shanghai Kunsheng signing or inking this $450 million RMB contract with EHang, they had just been incorporated 9 days earlier with 10 million RMB in registered capital. How do they plan on fulfilling this contract at all when they're a 9-day-old company with 10 million in registered capital? They signed $450 million RMB contract with EH for 3 units, and then further a few months down the road signed another 30 million RMB contract for another 20 units when they only have 10 million in registered capital. It is so dense.
So I don't know. Once again, this is the one point of like, I can put 80% into like what goes on this interview, but like I say, you have to be in EHang to know this. And also this is a question about the supplier more than the company. Like, EHang never reported false numbers. It's about the order, and EHang could have done a lot of these checks into this company and said, oh, we think you can pay it, we can't pay it, but there were never any false numbers reported, which is the key thing to remember. With this background check on this company, like I said, we're not actually talking about EHang anymore. We're talking about a customer. I don't know what that customer has, but obviously maybe that's why there was some situation when the order changed. Like I said, this is kind of past where this actually is anything to do with EHang, because we're actually talking about a customer right now. But it's the only little bit that I can't concrete put this reason for. But yeah, it seems a little bit fishy to me how they kind of stay in this statement when it's not much to do with EHang.
With so many issues, it's one of the worst stock promotes I've seen even out of China in 10 years.
Yeah, and that contract had some interesting timing when it came in too. It was right before the IPO.
Right. This is all leading up to the IPO, and they collected quite a bit in the third and fourth quarter of the IPO, which is in December of 2019. So it looked like, hey, they were collecting on some of these contracts. Since then, in the last year, believe it or not, their accounts receivable have ballooned to 80%. So they claim to have taken in about 25 million U.S. in cash over the last 13, 14 months, but they've only actually collected 3.6 million in cash. So 20%, and 80% are in accounts receivable. This makes no sense to us. I mean, you're talking $3.6 million that they've collected. They have no profit. So if you're just looking at, price to revenue collected.
So just from that point of view, obviously they're kind of forgetting that how the installments work on the contracts. Also, they forget about all of the other income streams that EHang have, and also the other customers, the logistics side of it, the drone displays that they have. So yeah, there's they're kind of saying that this is one customer with only one income, but they're forgetting how big this customer is with all the contracts they have with other suppliers.
That's like 900 times where they're trading today. If you look at price to actual revenue reported, say the whole 25 million, including the accounts receivable, we're still looking at like something like 150 to 200 times price today. So it's ridiculously priced, and no reason for it, especially once you've taken a look at the factory itself.
Before we get into the factory, though, I want to talk about this accounting, issues that you're bringing up. This isn't the first time this has happened with the company. They had a U.S. subsidiary where similar things happened, and those accounts receivable actually had to be written down, and shareholders.
This is very common with a company that doesn't have many income trying to develop major products. They can obviously go on the verge of bankruptcy. It's something that really common happens. I think Neo did something very similar. So yeah, I don't know how much this has to really do with the company, but it's just one of the struggles of trying to get to a built-up size. And also the IPO was also a great thing that helped raise a lot of cash going forward.
Were left holding the bag.
Yeah, they did. They filed for bankruptcy in their U.S. Subsidiary prior to their IPO, which is why we think they delayed their IPO in 2019 to December rather than the spring of 2019. And lo and behold, they were able to collect almost nothing on their accounts receivable for that bankruptcy, and left the investors with $8.13 in the bank account, literally, to split among them. We see this looking like the same thing.
Yeah, and is this a common tactic that people use to inflate revenues, where they put the revenue out there but they don't actually collect it, and in the time before it's collected, investors get optimistic about that potential?
It's a very common tactic in fraudulent accounting and a fraudulent company. That's what I found. I mean, look, you see aging accounts receivable, that's one thing. You see accounts receivable that are aging a year, and you're only collecting 20%, which looks a lot like the model that took you bankrupt in your U.S. consumer drone business the year prior. Yeah, it looks like a pattern to us, especially when we look at the company inside and out.
Let's not forget that EHang, what I showed you a little bit earlier about all these deliveries. They have all these deliveries, they have deliveries across the continents. So that's another false statement.
It's just not feasible. And talking to experts about EHang itself, the motors in this product are hobby motors. They are not high tech technique motors or technical motors that you would expect to be in something that's going to carry passengers autonomously. It doesn't pass the sniff test for any of the experts we spoke to. One, Mark Moore, who was willing to go on the record, worked for NASA.
So once again, that's a false statement. The motors that are used in these drones are absolutely fine, and they've also had, the approval by so many people. They also have the test flights and 0 crashes as well. It's also funny that they talk to so many experts. They're only showing us one expert, which as well, this expert, so-called expert, is from Uber, which is exactly is a rival company as well. So obviously they're not going to talk anything great about a rival company.
NASA for 32 years, and most recently Uber Elevate, and evaluated the EH216 himself and said he didn't find the product to be worthy of carrying passengers, very dangerous. You look at it just from an eyeball level, and the propellers are like basically at your thigh or your waist walking in. You got 16 propellers surrounding this capsule, and you have to walk through those unguarded to get in or out of this. I mean, you get any kind of false start.
No, this is just absolutely facepalm moment once again. I think there's actually a video showing people safely getting in and out through these propellers. They're not moving when you're getting onto the aircraft. You have to shut the door and start the aircraft for the propellers to go. You know, it is very safe to do it. I think there's even a video of someone easily getting through the propellers onto the aircraft. You know, propellers have to be there for you to fly. You know, you're not going to walk through them when they're actually flying. It's just like, that was an absolute nuts claim.
God forbid you're in the air and one of these propellers flies off. It's just a matter of not if, but when. Where's that going to go? It felt like it's very dangerous, and none of the other EVs that we looked at had any kind of design like this.
Talking about the significance.
That's because there's not many prototypes out there
Of a company like Uber Elevate and their evaluation of this, but from a commercial perspective, a company like Uber and their plans to get into urban aerial mobility seems to be extremely important to the commercial prospects of a product like eHangs.
Uber Elevate spent $500 million just last year investing in this space, and you compare that to eHang, and eHang has an R&D budget of about $10 million. So
Uber are obviously going to have a bigger budget because they're something like a 50, maybe even more 50 billion company. They're going to have definitely a bigger budget to put into this. Also, the thing with eHang as well is that they don't have to put too much research and development in because they've been doing it for 7 years and they've got a prototype that pretty much works. So they don't have to do as much research pretty much going forward now. Whereas Uber pretty much have only just started recently and they're still drawing up the blueprints and trying to build the technology for this. So I think that's unfair on the comparison side of it and also where they're at in a position side of it.
They've got a completely inferior product here. It's basically just a drone with a couple of seats in it, with no R&D budget to.
But yet this drone has 10,000 test flights, proven videos of it working, been major contracts with major countries, trying this drone, pretty much ready for just approval now. So yeah, it's just lies.
Compete with Joby, Volocopter, Bell. Archer, any of these companies, they just happen to make it to market first, and they're the EV play for anybody wanting to be in this space right now, and they've really played on that with 48 press releases in 13 months. 48 press releases. There's like no event that they don't make a big deal out of. Quite frankly, we think they've misled investors about.
Probably because they've got a very good marketing team. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, as well as having a very good marketing team. It's because this company is doing massive successful things. If I was to go on to, I'm trying to find if I can find the actual press release page, like all the things that you would want them to show off, they are doing. eHang joins EU research product. You'd want to know that. It's a great partnership. Another demonstration. Working with Paris. Another the delivery side of it in starting to happen. Contracts for tourism services. Something else you want to know. Receiving permits from Austria. You would want to know about all these things. Like, I don't know why they would not report them. Why would you not report these news? So I don't know. I think that's just a crazy statement.
Their FAA approvals, which they have none of.
That was an actual lie. So I've got it here. You can see here FAA approvals here, and also you can see here eHang Electric gets approval in Norway and Spain from the FAA. So yeah, that's not totally correct.
Or any approvals in Europe, which they have none of. Anything they have gotten are approvals for test flights in common corridors where everybody, submitting the application fee can go fly your drone. This thing, is not unlike a drone that weighs 5 pounds or 50 pounds. It just so happens it weighs like 1,000 pounds, but it's a drone. I don't see it ever carrying passengers in a commercial way.
And talking a little bit more about those press releases, It's one thing to put out a lot of press releases if you do have something to talk about, but you've indicated that some of them actually seem misleading. They've had big launches where it almost looks like they're in a NASA launch center, and things don't quite add up when you dig a little bit deeper.
They're absolutely fantastic at putting out videos of their flying drone, but when you really look into it, and especially their so-called launch center, it's a complete joke. I mean, you walk.
Oh, that was a clip of people walking safely through the propellers, by the way, which is very dangerous.
In and yeah, it looks like a NASA launch center. They've got maybe 20 people sitting in front of computers with these huge NASA-like screens. Let's, forget about the fact.
Now, what he's about to show you, I agree that probably it would have been best to do it on a computer than a laptop, but you don't know how the configuration would have worked with a laptop and a drone, so I'm just going to say that right there. But you've got to remember that these control centers are designed for when there's multiple drones flying, which isn't happening right now. So that's why they're pretty much not in use, which we'll show you in a second.
What NASA did 30 or 40 years ago with those huge screens, you can do with your iPhone today. It's all for show. The 20 people sitting there looking like they are NASA engineers are looking at a home screen on their computer. They're not doing anything. And by the time they actually do the test flight itself, which looks rickety at best, they bring somebody off camera, on camera, with a laptop.
Now, I bet all of our viewers are dying to see the launch of the world's first passenger drone. Derek, can you please show us how to launch this aircraft?
Yeah, so here comes our engineer.
Our EHang engineer hard at work, preparing the launching of the 184.
Now you have all this commercial equipment that looks like you've got this big launch center, and you got some dude that walks in with a laptop and just kind of takes the drone off the ground at their R&D center, and there's nobody in the drone. They fly it around for a little bit, they set it back down, but this launch center it's a complete facade in my opinion.
So once again, I agree that they should have probably used a computer and a laptop, but we don't know exactly how maybe certain things work and how they link them up to the situation. I agree, it doesn't look the most professional thing when you got that control center, but you only need one person there to manage the flying drone. That's why the whole test center is empty. The whole test center is designed for when you have multiple drones flying everywhere. So that's a bit of a false statement.
It's not unlike what we've seen in China for the last 10 years, right? I mean, do they make drones? Yes, they do. They have some. And by make, I don't necessarily mean manufacture from the ground up. From what we saw in their factory, they're simply assembling parts like a kit car kind of a thing. So
I think that's a total false statement, because they do produce, I think it's like on average about 30 a quarter, so one every kind of 3 days really. And you can see here, like if they're producing one every 3 days, there's 1, 2, and then I think at the back there's probably 2 back there. So you can see that's about 12 days work right there. So they're not selling loads of these at the moment. So there isn't going to be big conveyor belts. There's only 30 sales every 3 months. So I don't know what they're getting at here, because there's like 12 days work there for this company that we can see in this photo.
They have drones. They have maybe 20 of them at their factory just sitting there.
So there's 20 of them sitting in the factory, and they normally produce, I think, 30 in the quarter, like I said. So yeah, there's pretty much a quarter's worth of drones right there. They don't have massive sales at the moment. We talk about a company for the future. They're questioning the numbers right now. There's pretty much the quarter's numbers right there. So there's the evidence that they don't need that many, people working. They don't need big conveyor stations and factory lines and stuff like that. A lot of these will be hand built because there's not too many orders of these yet, because we're waiting for a lot more approval.
And other places that they can show people. The same thing I could say about CBEH, China Integrated Energy, for those of you who have ever seen the China Hustle. I mean, yes, this was an energy company. Yes, it had smokestacks, and yes, it had offices, but it had no employees and it wasn't operating until investors wanted.
So that's comparing that. I don't know what the point is here, because EHang does have 300 people currently working for it, with sales, deliveries, customers, and evidence that there is drones in the building. Even from their point of view, they admitted there's drones in the building.
To show up, and then you could see us filming them for several days, Smokestack starts coming. Smoke starts coming out of smokestacks. Lights turn on. A bunch of employees show up. Busloads of investors get dropped off. Everybody puts on a very nice show. As soon as they get on the bus and leave, everything gets turned off. That's what appears to be happening here with EH. Walking into their factory, and consider this for a moment. Their main factory in Guangzhou had one security guard at the front. So what did we do? We just walked around the back and walked in. And
So this statement absolutely boggles my head. Like, so the main entrance is there. There's a security guy on it at the main entrance, which they didn't make clear on the report, and they went around the back and went through a back entrance, which I'm not sure how like legal that is right there. But like they're making it sound like they just walked in through the main door, like, hey, we're just gonna have a look around. Like, that wasn't the case. They went through the incorrect entrance. There was a security guard at the main entrance where, if they wanted to get in, is where they're supposed to go in. So I'm not 100% sure on this statement how correct this is. And also, there's no date on this video footage. If it was done in the last 10 days, it is done on the it's currently Chinese New Year. I think there's 10 days national holiday at the moment, so there's not going to be that many people around anyway.
walked around their entire facility, 5 floors, for 20 minutes, filming everything. We did not see one employee working.
Chinese national holiday.
We saw 3 or 4 employees as we were going into the facility, unchallenged, to thinking about protecting all this world-class IP. You could just walk in off the street.
You didn't walk off the street though, did you? You went through the wrong entrance.
Yes, we saw some EH-216s fully assembled, but we saw nothing that looked like manufacturing equipment. We saw no assembly line.
You don't need an assembly line when you're only making 30 every kind of quarter.
Nothing like you'd see at Joby or any of these other large eVTOL companies. Not to mention, you could never walk in off the street with any of these companies here in the US like this. What kind of IP are they really protecting when you can walk in off the street and walk around their entire factory? There were no lights on. I get it. If you're only
Chinese national holiday.
going to pull in $3.6 million in cash last year, you got to be careful about the light bill. But even going up to the second floor, as the elevators open in the vestibule area, there's 2 half-built EHang 216s, or half-assembled, I should say, sitting next to some trash. Walk through the whole second floor, unchallenged. Third floor, unchallenged. The whole thing goes this way. And it appears to us, just like many of the other China hustles, it's a hustle.
And it's not just that location as well. They have talking about their media statements, they put out releases about a new facility that you also went and checked out. Talking about what you saw on the ground there.
Yeah, so there's this new facility.
So this new facility is still not supposed to be open for another few months yet.
They say they're building in Yangfu. Of course, they're not building it. They have no CapEx budget. Their CapEx budget was $500,000. And we go to Yangfu, and we do see that there is a building that does have their name on it now. It used to be some stone wholesaler that was subsidized by the local government in Yangfu, which is, I guess, what's happening here with EHang. And it's 80% unfinished. It's supposed to have been finished end of this month or something like that.
So apparently it's 80% unfinished, but there's some sort of evidence here that it's not towards 80%. We're kind of getting there, so I think that's probably a little bit exaggerated.
There a month ago, 80% unfinished. There are like 4, 6 drones there, fully assembled, a couple of them just sitting on pallets wrapped up.
So I'm sure they're being very selective with the photos as well, but apparently this is 80% unfinished, but yet in this photo we have 2 complete drones, and it looks like there could be another one on the left hand side, but there's at least 3 drones currently getting built right there. So for a facility that's only 80% complete, to still have some drones in here that are clearly getting built, I'm not sure how much that links together.
There's not even a wrench, Nick.
And once again here we've got 2 packed, so there's been 2 drones actually built in this facility, or being put in this facility. So there's 2 complete drones there that are ready to go out. And also in the far left corner you can see there's actually another drone here, which is a different photo. So it does suggest to me here there's probably at least a good 8 drones in here. And linking up with the other factory, there's quite a few drones being built here. And like I said, there's going to be no big conveyor lines and stuff like that. A lot of these probably will be built by hand, because they're not making that many. They don't need to put that, they need to keep expenses low. So a lot of these will be just built by hand at the moment.
As far as being a manufacturing facility, there is nothing. Now I'm saying in their main manufacturing facility, Guangzhou, they don't have an assembly line, they don't have advanced manufacturing equipment, and their new facility in Yunfu, they have zero, not even a hammer. So, what they think they're doing there, I have no idea.
And you also went to the R&D facility, and what did you find there?
Well, the R&D facility is in a dilapidated area. It was like an old circus 10 years ago. It does exist. You can see it on one of their videos better. We actually, in this case, couldn't get past the gate guards, who were not interested in whether we were investors or not. But it looked like nothing you would think it was.
I mean, I don't know what difference it makes if they're an investor, if they're going to let them in. I don't know what that statement's about. So it's not like, hey, you're an investor, come in. That's not going to happen. It's good to know that they tried to get through the actual entrance this time instead of going through another entrance as well. But it's a research and development centre. There's not going to be loads there. They just need a place to kind of get these drones and try fly them,
It's just a rundown, bombed out Beirut. It was a terrible location. Who knows what they've got back there, but we couldn't get into it. You can see from satellite photos that they do have a pad where they can do test flights. But again, they have a drone. It's never going to carry human passengers autonomously. That's not going to happen for a very long time anywhere, even with the best in class. To think that you're going to have this discontinuous jump from a drone to no pilot to fully autonomous is ridiculous. Of course, we're going to have pilots to begin with to work out software kinks and things of this nature, rather than just putting people in a drone autonomously day one in the next year or two. That's not going to happen, as EHang would have you believe. Not the least of which, you're not going to be walking through 16 propellers to get into a drone.
So I agree with that statement that we still offer like a lot of regulatory approval and stuff like that, but eventually it will start coming in bits and parts and after test flights. But they're just kind of forgetting about all the other kind of income streams this company has as well. And also it goes on about saying about walking through the propellers again, when they showed earlier the clip of someone safely getting out and walking through the propellers, which is it's a good job this guy ain't Pinocchio, let's put it that way.
Anybody with piloted drone or not is going to get into a much safer vehicle with much safer motors and much safer equipment to be used.
So even say though, autonomy does happen and people are willing to overlook the safety issues, talking about the economics of actually using this commercially and how their math just doesn't quite add up.
Well, think about it. The thing can fly for 10 minutes. How much do you have to charge somebody to make that economically viable at $230,000 a unit or 1.5 million RMB? It's just not. And when you're not spending any real money in R&D, what's the plan? What's the plan for a better battery? It's one of the first things that the finance manager, Kun Sheng, said to us. Like, this thing is old. It is outdated. You don't want it. We can sell you something else. The battery only lasts for 10 minutes. There are no economics of scale there. It can only fit 2 passengers without a pilot. And believe me, these would be 2 very small passengers. Like, you've got a 100-pound Asian lady trying to get in this thing, and it looks like she's taking up the whole thing herself. You're not putting a larger person like myself in this thing at all.
So on top of this autonomy story that they're telling, they're also talking about them really being a platform that covers the whole, gambit when it comes to this new industry. Can you talk to me a little bit about, what they're saying, and then also the experts that you've consulted, what they've come to the conclusion that maybe that just doesn't even work for companies as large as Uber?
This, by the way, should have already been finished, according to them in one of their press releases. The Haju E-port.
So this E-port actually came out on the conference and saying that they have had to delay building this because of COVID-19. So the next statement they're about to say is incorrect once again. But obviously they couldn't be able to read a lot of the press releases for this sort of statement.
The largest of those holders doesn't even have 1%. And compared to even some of the other companies we've talked about on the chopping block, that's really not even comparable.
You know who does have more than 1%? Kun Sheng. They're the company that's got all these contracts for 128 units over the next 9 years or whatever it is.
So from this point of view, we're kind of got on to now, so I'm just going to try to skip through a few more little bits of it. But yeah, they said that no institutions hold the shares, and that these guys that apparently have an investment have the shares. Once again, if I go through here, I cannot see that company name in here. They say that no institutions hold shares, but you can see the founder has a lot of shares, which is a really positive sign. GGV Capital, which I think is a lot of Chinese funds. Also, it's quite a new company as well, so they won't have like loads of stakes in here. But you can see here, Aviva have some shares. UBS has some shares, which have increased 100% as well. Also, Bank of America, they've increased their stake by 300%. Wells Fargo. So there's a lot of asset companies here that do, or a BlackRock, that they're starting to build some shares in here. Let's not forget this company is a new company and a small company.
I don't know how many, if any, have been delivered, but one, it's not going to be for 150 million RMB a piece like their first contract, or even 128 units at 1.5 million RMB a piece. This is working out for both of these companies, Shanghai Pengcheng and EH, because it's a stock pro.
So, just taking stock of where we are now, you have potentially shady related party transactions. You have accounting issues. You have misleading statements about their manufacturing processes. You have concerns from professionals in the industry about their technology and their safety. On top of that, though, the stock is up almost 40% this week, 300% on the month, and 700%.
So I'm going to call it there because we're like 50 minutes in. But they're kind of, from here, I think they're pretty much like just recap most of the points that they've gone through. But you can see here that like 80% of the information that has come through, you can see is proven wrong, especially on like some of the factory side, some of the lazy like look into it. The only thing that I can't really get confirmation on is that order that they do put in. That would have to come exactly from EHang. They know the ins in and out of that order, but like I say, it doesn't look like it ever got reported into false sales, anything like that. So yeah, it's kind of like a little bit more confirmation from EHang from that point of view. But the thing is as well, like it seems like that order looks like it might have been cancelled anyway, and another order was put in. But yeah, apparently the company that's doing it was to help EHang and promote their own ownership. Can't find evidence of that. They also then go slate it, so if they have investment, why they're slating the product, and then if the CFO did say that, which there's no evidence the CFO did that, why they're going to order some more products. I don't know, there's just so many like false statements here with a lot of lack of information, and a lot of this has been, they have decided to bring this out on Chinese New Year. They say there's like not a lot of people around. Apparently there's no dates on it. A lot of this from the factories, and they've been doing this on Chinese New Year, but national holiday where people are probably off. It's just a really funny time to bring out a lot of this evidence with not much backing it up, no dates to prove what's going on, a lot of false statements, which I showed you guys today. And like I said, this is just me looking into it from like 2, 3, 4 hours of research, and I can put 80% of these claims falsely straight down myself. Some of the information I can't do, and I'm sure EHang will come out to prove this a little bit wrong. But yeah, I generally I'm not selling my shares at all at the moment, because this is quite a weak report really, and like I say, when we have a poor history of a short report, and also me sat at home can prove that 80% of these claims are already false, like how much more should we believe in this company? So I think it's just a load of rubbish really, and yeah, I mean it could have gone for a little bit longer, but I think I'll just call it there, because you can see there's just so much rubbish put in it anyway. But hopefully that kind of broke down some of the things that came out in this report, and you enjoyed it. And if you could smash the like button, that'd be absolutely amazing. That'd be really appreciated. And yeah, let me know what you think about this at the moment, and I'll catch you on another video.